This is the game WordWarz. It used to be called Wordsmith. That's why it's written out that way, but it's WordWarz. And so it has 104 cards, all have letters. Each card has a letter. There's different colors representing different point totals for each color. There's also star cards that are instrumental in playing the game, but there's 104 letters from the alphabet that are used to play the game, and then there's a playing board with 5 lanes that are played, plus what we call a bonus lane, and then there's a die. Now it's not a regular die. This die has 3, 4, 5, and 6 only, and 2 4s and 2 5s, and then 1 3 and 1 6, and so it's but it's used to determine how big the words are going to be, and so that's the extent of what the game comes with. Stop. Now the object of the game is to outscore your opponents, just kind of like in Scrabble. And the longer the word, the more points you can score, or to use higher value letters as well. And so the cards are shuffled, and then I'm playing as if there's 5 players, which is the maximum number of players that can play at one time. It can be anywhere from 2 to 5 players, but I'm going to have as if 5 were playing, and so each player gets 8 cards dealt to them, and in order they take each lane in order. So the first player gets lane 1, second player gets lane 2, and that is your lane for the whole game. And so there's a way for you to access other people's lane, and that's where the star card comes in, which I'll explain. And also everybody can play in the bonus lane. That's open to everybody. And so the first player in the first round, there's no die roll in the first round. Each player can play as many cards in their lane or wherever they want, but you can't score in the first round. In other words, you can't complete a word, just so we can fill each lane up with letters, and then the game can get going in round 2. But you're setting yourself up for the second round. Stop. Okay, what we're looking at is the cards that have been dealt to player number 1, and now being in round 1, again, you can't complete a word for score, but you do get points for every card played. So if you play 5 cards, you get 5 points, and so on. And so player number 1 is seeing a word here. He has a blank card that can be used as any letter, and so he's going to play the C and R and the Y, I, N, and he's going to leave it there for his next turn. He's going to leave it there, and so he would get 5 points for 5 cards played, and then the next player begins to work on his word in his lane. And so player number 2 is going to start a word, and then he's going to play a letter in the bonus lane, get rid of a letter, and so he's going to stop there and wait to round 2 to do what he's going to do. Stop. Okay, we're picking up now the game, starting the second round. Everybody has refurbished or replenished their the number of cards in their hand to 8. So everybody has 8 letters again, starting with 8, and you always replenish after playing. And so we're back to player number 1, who's lane 1. And so now the die starts, and this determines the minimum size of the word that can be made for score in this round. And so 3. So any word to score in this round from any players has to be at least 3 letters. Okay, so player number 1 has a word set up. He can also access any of the other lanes with the star card. He has an A as a star card. He also has a blank that can be played as any letter. And so he has lots of options now how he wants to proceed. He's also set himself up for a score in his own lane, and so he's going to go ahead and do that and use this as a G and take the word crying, and that's a 6-letter word, and according to the scoring, that's a double score. Whatever he gets is doubled. Beginning at 6 letters, it's doubled. 8 letters is tripled, and then anything 10 letters and above is quadrupled. But 6 letters, crying, so he takes the total of the letters, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. And so 11 times 2 for the 6 is 22. And so he gets 22 points. The cards come off. His lane is opened up now, and he can continue to play, or he can access other words and score. He can score one more time on the same turn if it's the bonus lane. You can score twice, but only if the bonus lane is one of those lanes that scored. So he's looking to see if there's anything else that he can do. He can also strategically play a card into another lane to make their word harder. But any letter played must continue to advance a word, a viable word. You can't just throw any letter in unless it can advance a word. It can be a harder word, but it has to advance a word into the other person's lane. And so what he's going to do is play 3 more cards and then stop. And so he's played a total of 4 cards. That's 4 points plus the 22. And so his score for this round is 26 points. Stop. Okay, so now I'm player number 2, and he has lane 2. And he is going to play an E and an F out of his hand. Is the word brief, and that's 5 letters, so there's no double, it's just whatever points he has. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 points for that word. Takes the cards off, and now we're going to see what he can do with his other letters. And so he's just going to start another word in his lane, and he's going to put a D on lane 5, and then he's going to stop right there. Okay, let's talk about the importance of star cards. There are 21 of these out of 104 cards. And so these cards allow any, like I said, a player to access anybody's lane and take over a word. And so these are very valuable to steal another. They could work on a word being ready to score, and you can take over their word. And so these are valuable, but you have to know when to play them. In this case, player number 2 used this D, and he put it on number 5's lane. And so star cards can be inserted anywhere, in any lane, in any part of the word. They can be put anywhere on the board. They can be put here at the end of a word, or if it could work, they could be put it at the start of a word. Anywhere that it would fit, they could put this letter. D obviously doesn't fit any one of these, but if it was another letter that did, you can insert it anywhere, and then you can play any other letter. Once you've taken that word for that turn, you can put any other letter after it, whether it's a star card or not. You've gained access to that word. And so, for instance, if your star card was an I, you could take over this word, and if you had an N and a G, you could have spelled making, and you'd taken over that word. If you wanted to use it, say, in another place, you could maybe take it over right here, or if it was an R, you could put an R there, and then you could spell friend. And so, if you had the N and the D, in other words, anywhere a word can legitimately be made, a viable word, you can put a star card anywhere on the board. And that's the power of a star card. And usually you want to do it either because you can take over a word and score on that turn, or you can kind of sabotage somebody else's lane by making it a very difficult word to finish. It has to be viable, but it can be a very difficult word to finish. Maybe a letter that's already been played that they're not going to be able to get to until the cards are reshuffled. So there's some strategy involved with star cards, and so there's 21 of them, and so the real skill is knowing when and where to play them. Okay, a couple of other things about star cards. If they are the last letter played, and then the next person's turn comes, anybody can play off of a star card, no matter whose lane it's in. If it's open, anybody can play on it, if it's left open like that. That means if player 2 played it, obviously player 5 could play that. It's his lane, but actually anybody could play after that if it's an open star card. Another thing you can do with an open star card, if you need that or if you want that, and what you put there continues to, again, has to continue a word in some way. You can take the star card from them, put it in your hand so you can play it in the way you want to. So anytime it's left open, anybody can play it, or somebody can exchange it. And so that's those are two other important parts of the star card. If a star card is the first letter in your lane, this is your lane only, if it's the first letter in your lane only, you can play cards in front of it as well. If it's the first letter, you can put cards in front of it to help you spell a word. So. Now, another important rule is that in your lane, say I'm in lane number 3 and I'm trying to figure out a word, and I have an open vowel in my lane. An open vowel in my lane. You can exchange an open vowel in your own lane, if it would help. And so in this case, I have an A, and then I'm able to play a couple of more letters and glass, and so I'm able to score. And so any open vowel in your lane or the bonus lane. The bonus lane is like everybody else's second lane that they can play on. Same rules apply. And so If you need to exchange a valve, it's open in your lane. Now, maybe you have cards in your hand that you just can't, they're just not good. You can exchange all 8 of them or as many as you want, but you're going to pass. You're not going to be able to score it all on that turn. And so if, say, you wanted to hold on to half of your cards, you put half and then you take off, you take the 4 that you need. And so that's another way to exchange. Now, one other thing that you can do during the game is once during the game in your own lane, if it's just an impossible situation, you're not going to be able to create a word using your letters. At say I'm in lane 5, I could one time during the game I can clear out that lane because I want to play on it. I have other things I want to do, and so but I subtract the points that these cards represent. In this case, there'd be 6. I'd subtract 6 from my score. Whatever my score is, I'd subtract 6 at that point. If it happened to be 6 letters that I took off, just like other scoring, you would double the amount of the points that you took off because you took off so many letters. And so, but you can do that once per game. Okay, another rule is what we call a 8-card bonanza. And so this means that you can play all 8 of your cards in any lane. Doesn't matter which lane if you're access. But you can play all 8 of your cards on one word. It can be longer than 8 letters if there were already letters on the board. But for instance, you played the word complete. And they're all 8 of your cards on one play. And so, in this situation of scoring, you would get, because it's 8 letters, you're going to triple your score. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, 12, 15. So you got 45 points, but because you're getting the bonanza score, you're also getting 25 points on top of that. And that's what you call an 8-card bonanza. All 8 cards played to complete one word. Now, when the deck is depleted, that means that all the cards are either in people's hand or played out. Then you take the cards that have been played, that have been put to the side, and then you reshuffle them, and that becomes your draw cards going forward. Now, a game consists of 7 turns. Now, this can be negotiated, but generally it's a 7-turn. Everybody gets 7 turns, and then on the final round, you don't draw. You just play whatever you have in your hand, and you play them out. You just continue to play until there are no more plays left on the board, and whatever you're holding on to gets subtracted from your hand. And this is the end game. All unused cards are subtracted from the score, and if you are holding a star card, you add 7 points to that card, whatever it is. And so that's the end game, and then add up the total points, and whoever has the most points is the winner.